Welcome back to a new episode of the Startup Show. Today I have the big pleasure to be here at MIT in Boston and visiting Jeff Jaffe from the CEO of W3 Consortium. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
So welcome back to a new episode of the Startup Show. As usual on the Startup Show, I would like to give the first 2 minutes to our guest today on the show. So please take it away. Give us a few background information about your person.
I'm the CEO of the Wide Web Consortium. The Wide Web Consortium is the organization that sets standards for the World Wide Web, which is an important piece of infrastructure for our time. My background in coming to this position, the World Wide Web Consortium is headquartered at MIT. And actually, I did my studies at MIT. I got my PhD from the computer science department at MIT. After that, I spent about 30 years in industry. I was vice president of technology for IBM, president of research and advanced technologies at Bell Labs, CTO of Novell. So I had a lot of experience in industry, and that enabled me to come back to MIT, an academic institution, where we really work at the interface between research, innovation, science, and actually implementation in products that industry brings out. So that way we have a terrific resource called the World Wide Web that's available to everybody. Other things at a personal level, I'm a father of 4. 2 of my kids are also in technology. One works for a startup in Manhattan, and the other one is actually moving to Israel next month. And we'll be looking for programming positions there.
Okay, good. So we got that covered too. So tell me, probably most of my audience, they have probably never heard of the consortium. So maybe you can give a little bit of background. What does it mean if you're trying to standardize like HTML, CSS, or code in general?
Right, so it's worthwhile to think back to the original design of the World Wide Web and the design of the internet, which the web relies on. So of course the internet as a connectivity resource was developed in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. People used it for email, but they didn't really share information in the internet. The World Wide Web is a singular invention of Tim Berners-Lee, invented the web. He had the idea that everyone should post their information online, and then everyone could share and learn about everything that's going on in the world. He made that open. He didn't have any patent restrictions or anything like that. Everyone could use the web. And soon after developing the web, he realized that, what would happen if some technology giant decides to take it and make it proprietary? Or what would happen if it got stale and it didn't get better over time? So he had the idea that there should be a consortium of all researchers, innovators, companies, individuals that would work together in an open fashion to improve the web. We consider the mission of W3C, which is that consortium that brings us forward. Our mission is to lead the web to its full potential, which is a great mission statement because you never get there. So that's always our mission, and it's been terrific. We have over 400 companies, startups, research institutions, large commercial institutions, any company that you can think of who's active in the web. Google, Microsoft, Mozilla, Facebook, they're all members of W3C. We work together to get the next generation technology. So no company can advance the web without everyone else. So the entire world, in essence, moves in lockstep. The key word in making that happen is consensus.
Yeah.
The way we achieve consensus is different parts of the web technology stack, whether it is the core HTML, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with, CSS for styling, accessibility, security, privacy. Each aspect is a different working group. We have about 50 working groups and about 1,500 engineers from across these different companies that are all working on making the web a better place for the next generation.
So maybe you can give us like a little bit of an insight about what you're currently working on. What are the standards that we can expect in the next 5 to 10 years?
Sure.
Or maybe it's even sooner. I don't know. Maybe in technology it's much sooner. But
well, it's a continuous development, and we have stages that are working on different pieces. I would say in the immediate term, the thing which is consuming an enormous amount of attention in the industry and in the consortium is security. So obviously there are major security problems on the web. We can't fix all of them, but we have a number of approaches to address some of them. We have a group called the Web Application Security Group, which gives advice to application developers how they can develop their apps in ways that are more resistant to security attacks. We have a project which we started last year and is coming along extremely fast on web authentication. We're trying to remove passwords which will never secure the web and move to multi-factor authentication as a new paradigm. Of course, there are solutions in the world today for multi-factor authentication, but we're working with the entire industry to make this the standard for the web. So that way in the future, we'll have a much better way of securing users' personal information.
What would it look like? Like, how would I access my bank account?
Well, typically, the way multi-factor authentication works is that in addition to passwords, you might use passwords, but you also have something that you physically have on you, like it could be a special token or it could be your cell phone. The authentication requires that your physical device also checks in and says, yes, this is me that is trying to get access to the bank account. So that's far more secure than just the password, and since everyone has a cell phone, it pretty much is not overly problematic for people to do that as well. So that's something which is happening immediately. Of course, video is happening immediately, has been happening for some time. Our major focus in the last few years and into the next coming years has been to move from the focus on the web as something that you and I as individuals use, and a much stronger focus on the web that industries need to deliver their content to users. So for example, in the millennial demographic, many people have cut the cord, and many people are relying on the web for the delivery mechanism. But in order to fully utilize the web for web content delivery, it requires enhancements to the core protocols of the web, and so we're working on those with the entertainment industry. Another important one is digital publishing. So the web, of course, famously is a publishing mechanism. It's a way that I, as a user, can publish my information to everybody in the world. But when the web was originally initiated, the publishing quality on the web was very bad. It was static. There weren't many different kinds of fonts available. Today, the web is able to publish essentially everything with extremely high quality. So we're in a situation where in the past there were specialized techniques that people use for digital publishing, and now all standardization for digital publishing is going to come to W3C. So in fact, earlier this week, the International Digital Publishing Forum, IDPF, which is the standards organization for ebooks, took a vote, and they voted that they would like to merge into W3C. So it's a way of showing the vitality to the publishing industry. We have a project with the telecommunications industry. We have a project with the automotive industry, trying to make sure that core web technologies could be used for automotive. So that way, if I want to build an infotainment system in my vehicle, instead of having some specialized technology, I use standard web technology. So any app developer can develop apps for in-vehicle applications as well. So I think the move to use web standards for vertical industries has been an extremely productive move and has been a major focus that we have in W3C.
I see. I mean, I watched a little bit of, like, when you look at the different industries that are coming up. You mentioned cybersecurity, Internet of Things, trying to connect everything. Is that also something that you're like? I think there was a project that I saw, Web of Things. What is that project about?
Right. So the Internet of Things, which is of course much ballyhooed and talked about. Everyone's talking about it. Provides internet connectivity for a much wider range of sensors and devices. Your Fitbits will be connected, and everything will be connected, and you'll have a lot of different applications for that. The smart factory, smart city, medical information devices, and so forth. The way the Internet of Things has been developed is what we call a bunch of silos. So people are looking at the smart factory application. They're connecting on the internet, standard internet, and then everything above that is dedicated to the factory. If they're doing smart cities, connection with standard internet, and everything above that relates to the city.
Okay.
And so on down the line. So it turned out that with the web, one of the most important things to make the web successful was the ability to share information across different users, different applications, and so on and so forth. We're concerned that the IoT and the Internet of Things approaches that people are using with these siloed application stacks are not going to be able to share information.
Because it's so secure, or because they don't want to share the information?
Because they're not focused on it, because the people working on Smart Factory are thinking only about the factory.
Yes.
So if someone wants to build a digital watch in a smart factory and figure out all the pieces and the inventory for all of that, they're only thinking about the watch as something that is manufactured in the factory.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not thinking that a day later, the watch is going to be used in a smart city because it's going to accumulate temperature information from my microcell or traffic information,
yes,
and transmit that to the city. And they're not thinking that a day later my watch is going to be taking my pulse and is also going to be having medical information.
Mm-hmm.
And so the same device, the smartwatch, is going to be used in multiple different application areas, and IoT is ignoring that.
Right.
So our project, the Web of Things, is looking at how do we come up with the proper data models for sharing metadata and things like that. So that way, when people build IoT-based applications, they do it in a way which encourages sharing and breaking the silos,
yeah,
instead of having them done in a single silo.
So thank you very much for these insights into W3C and taking the time to give us a little bit of insights. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching this episode of the Startup Show here directly from Boston at MIT. And see you soon with another episode. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.